Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to another edition of the Beech Grove Scouting Report. We trust it was an enjoyable and relaxing Valentine's Day, however you spent it. Hope, again, it was enjoyable. It's time to talk Beech Grove athletics. As we mentioned, the winter sports season is drawing to a close and getting ready for spring sports, but that doesn't mean things have slowed here at Beech Grove High School. We are thrilled to death to have the boys varsity wrestling coach Matt Irwin with us again this week. And Coach, if you're with us, that must mean somebody did pretty well at the semi-state. Both of our kids did. One that did just a little bit better was Evan Smiley. He's wrestling this weekend at Bankers Life Fieldhouse.
Yeah, it was a great accomplishment. Evan went out there and wrestled tough and won a couple close matches, and so he gets the opportunity to wrestle on the big stage. So. For
the 99th time, a wrestler from Beech Grove High School is wrestling in a state championship. You have to be not only happy about Evan's success, but it's got to give you and your staff a sense of accomplishment, because let's face it, there's some history and tradition here. And when you can come in your first year and pull that off, I know there's only the pressure now is to keep doing it and keep doing it, but it's got to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, it was a nice accomplishment. I mean, weren't really satisfied with it, but you know, it was nice to have someone get there. It's been a couple years since we had someone there, so it's nice to get someone back on that level. And like I said, it's the 99th one from this program's history, which kind of goes to show what kind of program it is. And so we're looking forward to this weekend and Evan putting on a show and hopefully getting on that podium. Before
we get to Saturday and the state championship, Friday and Saturday actually, let's talk a little bit about last weekend. Describe his day for us.
Started out first round, we wrestled a guy from Franklin County, and we tech-falled him. We went out there and tore him up. Evan was aggressive, got out there and was taking him down, turning him pretty much at will, and we tech-falled the kid, beat him by 15 points, and the match was over a little early. So we started the day off right, and then Trayvon's first match was against a kid from Carmel. We had the first takedown in that match, and you know, we're feeling pretty comfortable, but then the kid, he decided kind of not to wrestle us, which kind of worked out to his advantage, and by I mean that he went down on a hand and a knee so that Trayvon couldn't take him down, and he ended up beating us on the mat and ended up winning a close match by I think 1 point, and so which ended Trayvon's season, which Trayvon accomplished quite a bit this year.
Sure.
And I'm very proud of the way he handled himself and the way he led this year and everything that he accomplished, because it really was a great thing.
So now going into the week's preparation, how difficult is it from a mental standpoint for Evan? What's this week of practice been like? Have you tried to keep it as normal as possible, with the exception of the fact you don't have any matches during the week, but practice-wise, is his routine pretty much pretty familiar to him?
Yeah, as the season goes on, we kind of shorten the practices up. The intensity revs up a little bit, but the length of the practice will move down because it is such a grind, and the sport is tough, and so we kind of take the length down a little bit, but the intensity is still there, and we kept things pretty normal. The only thing that really changes is you know who you're going to wrestle this on Friday night. And Friday night's the win or go home match. So you win, you're a top 8 in the state. If you lose, you're just a state qualifier. And so we've kind of looked at what our draw was with who we drew, and have formulated a game plan to execute and go out there and beat this kid.
Wrestler's undefeated from Jimtown, his opponent, and you don't look at those sorts of things. I mean, let's face it, your dual meet scheduling, your tournament scheduling, your draws in the sectional, regional, and semi-state, all can factor into you going unbeaten. And just because you might have 4 or 5 losses on your record, let's face it, you don't back into a state championship round. So Evan's there, he belongs there, regardless of the fact he might have a couple of losses on his record.
Yeah, I mean, the kid that he's wrestling, I mean, he's a good wrestler. He's a 2-time state place winner, and yeah, he's undefeated, and he's a very good wrestler. Don't get me wrong, he's earned his record. But here in Marion County is the best section of wrestling in the entire state of Indiana. We've wrestled the best kids all year long. We've lost close matches. We've won close matches. And so that only goes to prepare us for this weekend. So we've been there, done that with all the tough matches. And we've wrestled a lot more than he has of the tough opponents. So I think we'll be prepared in that sense. But, like I told Evan, it's just nobody's at the state tournament is a slouch. And I guarantee he wasn't happy to draw us.
Isn't it interesting that with the IHSAA and the way the tournament formats go, especially wrestling, I mean, Evan Smiley's going to get out of bed tomorrow morning, going to come to school. He's going to go to class, sit in class. As we mentioned, he's a former Scholar Athlete Award winner here at Beech Grove High School, so clearly he takes care of business in the classroom. And then when his day is done, you guys are going to load up, head down to Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and compete for a state championship. That's pretty heady stuff for a kid that age.
Yeah, it's exciting. It'll probably be a long day for him tomorrow because, you know, just that anticipation and wanting to be there and get it started. But, you know, we'll get there and get there a little early, you know, settle down, enjoy the environment, take everything in, and then start focusing on the job at hand, which is to win that first round match against Nick Kroon from Jimtown.
Folks, I've been privileged as an assistant football coach a few years ago to coach at a state championship, and oftentimes you get questions like, well, what are the nerves like? What's the stage like? And there's no question that the build-up to it in terms of nerves, the anticipation, the preparation and everything is the worst part. We were lucky playing in the 2A final game because that's a Friday night 7 o'clock kickoff. That's business as usual for us, you know. So, you know, in that regard, maybe we didn't have it as difficult as some other teams, but really, honestly, Coach, yeah, there's a lot going on with the preparation and the hype and whatnot, but I'll tell you what, when that whistle blows and it's time to start, it's another match. I mean, those butterflies typically go away. Yeah,
for the most part, and a lot of times, every Friday night down at the state tournament, there's guys that get upset that aren't supposed to lose. And really what it comes down to is there's certain kids that don't handle the pressure of the situation. They're, you know, you're in Bankers Life Fieldhouse and there's 10,000, you know, plus people there to watch. And so they kind of get caught up with everything that's going on around them and they don't perform. And so it's the kids that go out there and they're able to block their surroundings out, focus on what's in front of them, and go out there and, like you said, take care of business. Those kids win their Friday night match and they move on.
It's like Gene Hackman taking the Hickory Huskers into Hinkle Fieldhouse. First thing he did was ask for a ladder and a tape measure. Free throw line was 15 feet and the bucket was 10 feet off the floor. And let's face it, there might be 10,000 people at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, but the dimensions of the mat are the same. Yeah. And that's the mindset you have to approach it with.
Exactly. I mean, we know what we have to do to win this match. You know, we've got that figured out. So it's a matter of him just going out there and doing it. Focus on, you know, this is another match. This is going to be no different than any other big match that you've wrestled this year. So go out there and let it loose and see what happens.
Are you able to enjoy this? I mean, I've, as I said before, having gone through this process, the thing that I regret reflecting upon it is you were so busy on preparation, I didn't take the time to thoroughly enjoy it, but you're coaching a young man with an opportunity to win a state championship in Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Are you enjoying this as a coach this week, preparing for it?
You have to. I mean, that's part of the reason why you coach, is to get these kids to these points in their career and accomplish these things. And so you'll enjoy the parade of champions and listening to them announce Beech Grove High School and announce Evan's name over the PA system and everything else, but at a certain point you have to decide when it's time. You're there for a reason. You came there for a reason, and so at a certain point you have to know when to shut that off and be focused.
Now, I know that tomorrow is a very busy day for Evan, as we mentioned, but again, for folks who may want to go to Bankers Life Fieldhouse, give us an idea what the itinerary is like tomorrow.
Wrestling starts at 6. The Parade of Champions will be anywhere. They'll start anywhere from around 5 to 5:30. But wrestling will start at 6, and it's first come available mat pairings. So they'll start at 106, the lightest weight class, and then as they progress, as matches end, they'll keep filling in matches. So we'll probably be up, I would imagine, anywhere from around 6:15 to 6:30. So that's when our match will probably start.
And not if he wins, but when he wins and moves on to Saturday. What time do things start Saturday?
Saturday, it starts at 9 a.m. Saturday is 9 a.m. for wrestling.
And you can catch it all weekend long on ihsaatv.org. I'm happy to be a part of that broadcast crew for the Indiana High School Athletic Association, along with Mike Gable, the longtime legendary coach from Evansville Modern Day. It's a little unorthodox, but I'm going to reach my hand across the counter here, say congratulations to you. Thanks for everything you've done for this program, and best of luck to an outstanding young man. And again, he deserves to be there.
Very much so. Very much.
Well, Matt English will join us momentarily. He's the head basketball coach and athletic director here at Beech Grove High School. We'll be talking about the boys basketball team as they prepare for a big conference matchup this weekend, and also travel to Batesville. We'll also be talking about the boys swim team from here at Beech Grove and recap girls basketball. All of that and more on the Beech Grove Scouting Report coming up. Welcome back to the Beech Grove Scouting Report. The athletic director and head basketball coach Matt English joins us now. We're going to talk a little bit about the conclusion of the winter sports season before we talk about his boys basketball team and their big conference win over Ritter last week. First of all, Coach, girls basketball team wrapped up by hosting sectional action. Let's call it what it is, a very difficult season at times for our girls basketball team. However, boy, the one-loss record doesn't show it. It's a cliche. We're not blowing smoke. We're just speaking facts. If you look at our basketball program at the beginning of the season and look at them toward the last week and a half of the season, they certainly got better.
There's no doubt about that. You know, you really don't need to look any further than just Danville. We're speaking factually. Danville handed it to us pretty good early in the season. But in the sectional, that game was close for a period of time, and if our girls could have made a couple of shots and a couple of plays, I think the outcome could have been much closer than it even ended up. But those girls persevered and they kept fighting, and they certainly came a long way. And there's some bright spots for the future with some of the young girls that had an opportunity to play this year.
Yeah, I've stopped a couple of freshmen in the hallway and said, "Hey, look, you saw the struggles this year at the varsity level. You are some kids that can start to change that culture a little bit," because I had the opportunity to work a few freshman games over the course of the season. You're right, the cupboard's far from bare.
Well, you look at the varsity team, Lizzie Giller really came on for us at the end of the year. Kayla Kaiser was injured at the very end, but she was playing very well before that injury took place. Sammy Fancher and Christian Folks and Sydney Bonds and a number of girls who were heavy contributors on the JV and freshman teams, I think, will be ready to step in and contribute next year.
Yeah, and I think that program's guided by somebody who knows what to do to win.
Exactly. She's been around the block, and she's eager and she's enthusiastic, and that's the kind of person you want to show the way.
Right. Girls swimming had an outstanding season. Has there been a swimmer in recent memory that had a better season than Reese Johnson had?
Not that I can recall. Certainly nobody that I've seen this close up. She was unbelievable. You know, it seemed like every night she was breaking a record or setting something new, and she's only a junior. She'll be back, and I know Coach Lamar's excited for her next year. And along with some of our relay teams really performed well at the end of the year. And our girls had some injuries they had to fight this year, so hopefully next year they'll be a little luckier in that scenario and be a little more successful.
Yeah, Reese made us write the record book in pencil this year so we could erase it easily when she broke it the following week. And she was an Edward Jones Investment Scholar Athlete of the Week. She's also in band, and you name it, she does it here. Just an absolute asset to the athletic program here at Beech Grove High School. Well, as we mentioned, we talked earlier with Coach Irwin, the wrestling team with Evan Smiley competing in the state championship this weekend, but our boys swimming and diving team competes this weekend in sectional play, and boy, what a phenomenal season they've had.
They've had a great year. They're 13-1 in dual meets, and they've finished very well in some tough tournaments. They've really had a wonderful year. The group of seniors, I can't name them all off the top of my head, but Richie Conway and Adam Messer, Roe Richardson, Danny Turk, some of those guys, they run cross country together, and then they swim together, and it seems like they're always working at trying to get better. And they've really had a phenomenal season. And I know they're excited about the sectional. They think they can make some noise.
And there's something different. You folks may not be aware of it when you're talking about the postseason in swimming and diving. There's no regional, there's no semi-state. So there's a lot of pressure on them to do well in the swimming sectional this weekend.
There is, and they know that. Coach Bush Collins is really good with the numbers. He understands exactly what they need to do and where they need to place in order for them to move on through the tournament. And those kids, I'm confident, they'll go and perform well. It's just a matter of how they shake out against the rest of the state.
I was talking to Coach Irwin, and I asked him if he really had the opportunity to enjoy this week, and if he's going to get a lot of enjoyment out of this weekend at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, having an opportunity. Boy, what do you do for an encore when you're a first-year head coach? You get a kid to a state championship.
It's pretty good. And, you know, watching Matt from afar, it's kind of neat to see the enthusiasm that he and assistant coach Nick Walpole bring to our wrestling program, because they're not too far removed from being kids.
Right, yeah.
I don't consider myself an old man, but Matt and Nick are young guys, and they've been there. They were both extremely successful wrestlers. And when you're just, I try not to watch too much because I don't want them to think I'm hovering, but you can feel their enthusiasm and their passion for what's going on. And I think they're both excited about what's going to happen.
Another guy that pumps a little enthusiasm and passion into that program is the other assistant, Jim Cross.
He does a great job. And you know, Jimmy's with those guys every day in the weight room and then pushing them in practice. And he's like the Energizer Bunny. He doesn't ever let up.
Is it difficult for you, being the athletic director and having an athlete competing for a state championship? Is this one of those times when you do feel a bit conflicted because you've got a basketball game to play the same night?
Well, there's no doubt. I'd love to be down there and see what it's all about. I've seen the Parade of Champions a couple times when wrestling was hosted at different events, but I'd really like to be there to see when one of our guys is there. And you know, it's really neat to see Matt and Nick and Jimmy and Evan talk about, they've got a plan for tomorrow night. And I just have a feeling that, you know, something really special could happen. And I hope it does, but I'm going to hate to miss it if it does.
But let me say, folks, certainly this is not a guy that shirks his responsibilities as an athletic director. I've made this observation to a couple of people. When I joined Beech Grove in the fall, and I don't mean any offense to anybody that might wear these dual roles, but I think the thing that impressed me the most when I came here in the fall is that had you not told me up front that you were the basketball coach here, I would have never guessed that based upon how the focus and the attention you pay to our other athletic programs. And I hope you take that as a compliment.
Well, thank you very much. We've got a lot of good things going on. They deserve to be recognized, and people need to pay attention to them.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that basketball program. We'll let you put that hat on now. Varsity basketball coach here at Beech Grove High School, of course. And, boy, what a huge win over Ritter. I mean, Pete Bidding, year in, year out, regardless of the level of talent, he's a bit more athletic some seasons than he is others. Certainly the cupboard's not bare in terms of athleticism at Ritter, but, boy, I'll tell you what, we've looked for an uptick in intensity and toughness this season, and they picked a good time, your kids did, to pull that out against Ritter.
You know, we're really excited about our performance from last week. As you said, Ritter's a good basketball team. They've competed with some good people. They've beat some good people. So it wasn't like we pounded on a weak sister the other night. And what we really enjoyed was how hard the kids played and the number of kids that were involved in that. You could look from player 1 to player 8 who played in the game, and they all gave us a contribution and played hard and intense. And I think that's a good sign for us moving forward.
You were able to, I think, at times during the basketball game, your offense fed off your defense and vice versa.
You're exactly right. And that's something you mentioned earlier, how we've been talking about energy and toughness. And we had a really good week of practice last week. And we feel like practice led into our play last week. And then you also mentioned how offense and defense feed off of each other. We've tried to talk to our guys and get them to recognize how, you know, there's a correlation. When good things happen defensively, good things happen offensively, and vice versa. When good things happen in practice, good things happen on game night. So I think we're growing and we're starting to recognize those things a little bit.
Would those be the best 4 quarters? Now, I know the first 5 minutes or 4 minutes of the fourth quarter against Lutheran was about as well as I've seen you play this year. But in terms of 4 quarters, is that the best you played all year?
I think it's probably the best job we've done of playing hard consistently, being intense. I didn't feel like at any point we lost our poise the other night. We knew exactly what we were trying to do. And Ritter's a good basketball team. They made a run at us in the first half after we had extended the lead, and they made a run at us in the third quarter. But I didn't feel like our kids were panicked or out of sorts. We handled it and we moved on.
Does your junior guard, based upon that game, Jalen Dyson, now understand what an impact he can have on your basketball team?
Boy, I hope so. Because when Jalen plays, he gives us another dimension. He really does. You know, he's had a big learning curve coming into not just basketball this year, but coming into school. He's had to adjust to new people and new classes, and things have been different for him. But he can really be a great asset to us when he's ready to go.
Is it something as simple when you're talking about a kid like Jason, and folks, it is this simple sometimes. Guys don't think just play. Relax and play.
Yeah, and I think with Jalen, and I'll take some of that responsibility, I don't think we overload our guys, but I think Jalen has been thinking more about things because everything's new to him.
Right.
And, you know, the other night he just played, and he's got good instincts. He knows when to shoot and when to pass. He knows when to be aggressive, and now we'd like to see that happen more often.
February 15th, depending on when you're watching this, is the next opponent. That would be Triton Central. That, too, is a conference game. Any concerns at all with having 8 days off between games, especially playing as well as you played against Ritter?
Yeah, you know, I was just looking at an article. I was reading an article by the Illinois basketball coach, John Gross, and they had to take a couple days off based on their schedule, and he was disappointed because they'd been playing so well. You know, you want to go to work when you're doing things right, but we've had another good week of practice, so I think our guys will respond well to that. And the nice thing about having some time is we gave them the weekend off. We practiced Friday afternoon and talked about what we needed to do moving forward, but we didn't practice Saturday, and obviously we can't do anything on Sunday, so we came back to work on Monday. And I think that time off late in the season is good for our legs and good for our mind.
Tell us about the newest addition to our conference. That's Triton Central. What do you look for from them Friday night?
Well, Triton Central is young. And they've got a new coach this year, but he's a veteran coach. Kerry Chandler's been around the area for a number of years. And there's one thing about his teams. They play extremely hard, and they're going to get after it, and we're going to have to play. And at this point in the season, we want to be playing our best basketball every night, regardless of who the opponent is.
Right.
So we've not focused on our opponents a lot this week. We've focused on our mindset and where we need to be. But tonight we'll watch film, and the kids will see Triton Central's going to get up and down the court. They're going to play hard. Their kids are going to get after loose balls, and we're going to have to focus in and get our job done.
And we talked about, shortly after we came back from Christmas break, that the second half of the season basically is designed to get you by the end of February playing your best basketball in preparation for the tournament. They're going to draw for just that Sunday at IHSAA headquarters.
Yes.
Did it sneak up on you?
It has. You know, you always kind of have that out there in your mind far away, but the season has just flown by this year. But we're excited about the draw and to see where we'll end up in the tournament.
Past Triton Central, we know we have Batesville and Whiteland before we wrap up the season, get ready for the tournament. We'll talk about those two teams next week on the show, but let's speak in generalities before we went on. You stand at 7-9. Over the last 6 games of your schedule, going back to January 25th with Lutheran, I asked you, you had the opportunity to go 4-2 over that 6-game stretch. You said you'd be happy with that.
You know, I say that, but we want to go and play well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We want to play well more than anything else. And we want to be competitive, extremely competitive. And that's the biggest thing. If our kids will be aggressive and competitive and give ourselves a chance, then, you know, we'll let things play out as they play out. But the biggest thing, we want to compete.
Well, you've got a top 5 team in Batesville, and if you could close out the season 5-1 with that pelt on your wall, that'd give you a little boost going into tournament time.
Yeah, they're very good. They're very good. But I'm excited to go down there and see how our kids respond to the second night of a doubleheader.
Put that athletic director's hat back on for just a minute. How satisfied are you overall with the health of our program after the winter sports season? I think it's been a great winter sports season.
I think it's been very good. I think we've got a lot of great things going on, you know, whether it be swimming or wrestling or cheerleading. I mean, you look around, our kids are working hard. And if you step down in the hallways after school, you got to watch out because we got track runners running around the corners, and you got to be careful. We got football players in the weight room. We got baseball and softball players in the auxiliary gym using the machines. So I think there's a lot of positive things going on in a lot of programs. So I'm excited about the whole program.
Well, let's hope the community gets out and supports these athletes wherever they are competing this weekend, be it basketball, boys swimming and diving, no matter what the sport. Certainly best of luck to Evan Smiley at Bankers Life Fieldhouse this weekend. Coach, good luck this weekend. We'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, Mark.
I am Mark James. That is Matt English. This is the Beech Grove Scouting Report, and we will see you next week. Thank you.